So Georgia, Oklahoma, Alabama, Michigan State. I think, Don, I think the most interesting thing, um, obviously aside from where Oklahoma lands, I think the most interesting thing to look at is where do they start Cincinnati? I think they talked about this on the broadcast um, in the Oklahoma Tech game here that there's never been a group of five that has been ranked higher than, I believe, seventh. So I think where Cincinnati starts is going to be um, very critical for them to be able to make it into these top four. So Cincinnati needs some help. Obviously, they're going to need some help to get where they want to go. They desperately need Georgia to run the table. They've got to have Georgia beat Alabama, because if there's a second SEC team in here, it basically completely eliminates their opportunity to make the playoffs. They need to have they probably need an Ohio State to go undefeated the rest of the way, and beat whoever it is that they play on the other side. Maybe it's Wisconsin now with how they played. So that's a big thing for Cincinnati. They need SMU has a couple of tough games tonight. They go to Houston. If they can get a top 12, a top 15 SMU team, that's going to help their resume. Even though it is SMU coming from the group of five, I still think it will help them. If Cincinnati's able to go undefeated and they don't make it, you just, I mean, at this point, I think you just don't think that there's a path for them. So I think Michigan State, I think you'll see them in the top four, probably, to the point Don's made. I like them at number four. I like what you have here. Honestly, I mean, I think you've got to. Um, I think the question that you have is probably Michigan State versus Cincinnati, either 4 or 5. I think, what do you value? Do you value Cincinnati's win at Notre Dame bigger than Michigan State's home win against Ohio State, or I'm sorry, against Michigan? So I think that'll be interesting to see what they look like there. So when you look at the schedules down the stretch, it's just going to be very interesting to see what these teams are able to do. Michigan State um, has a tough schedule. They go next week. They go to Purdue. We saw what Purdue did against Iowa. We then Michigan State on the 20th of November. They go to Ohio State, and then they host Penn State to finish the season. So I think that'll be interesting to see what happens. I think right now Minnesota leads the West, so I think obviously whoever wins the East side of the Big Ten has a good place and a good way forward. Um, so yeah, give me your thoughts on what you guys think of the college football playoff rankings as well, and then we'll go through some of the comments and Heisman as well. Whether you got Walker's a leader right now for Heisman, I think at the very least he's in the top two. I think depending on what Bryce Young will probably, I would say he drops just a little bit. I mean, Matt Corral is our leader in our last word on college football Heisman poll that we put out every week. He's just a narrow lead over Bryce Young, but I see Walker at the very least, your point, K Prime, getting in the top two. Hunter, yeah, K-Law looked good at cornerback. His tackling leaves something to be desired. Covers, yeah, no, and I think that's very well put, Hunter, because the tackling is just bad overall for just Oklahoma's team. There's just not they're not a great tackling team. So I think that's that's something that we've seen overall this season. Is just they're just not a great tackling team for whatever reason. And no, it's not because they don't practice it. I think they don't practice as all teams don't practice as much, just because just from a nervous perspective of getting people injured and things like that. So yeah, SMU, yeah, will be definitely will be big. They need, what they really need is an SMU win, and then it'd be nice for them to play just only I don't know how much value they would get out of beating SMU twice, but having just the one loss SMU team in there in the American Conference Championship game might help as well. So I think that will be interesting. Kiera, thanks for joining. Bam Asalu will not be top four come Tuesday, and everyone will lose their minds over it. I disagree. I think Alabama will certainly be top five. They are, or top four, I should say. I just think the media values them. The committee values them, what they've been able to do. They've played well outside of that game against Texas A&M. I know they struggled a little bit against Florida, but I think they've played pretty well since then. They've rebounded and played in a strong way. So we'll see what that looks like down the stretch. They still got a couple of tough games. I know they go to Auburn. Obviously in the Iron Bowl to end the season. And let's see if they have any other their road games that might be of particular interest here. Let's see. Let me look at their schedule. Not really. So they got 3 straight home games. Before they go to Auburn, they host LSU next week, host New Mexico State, host Arkansas, and then they finish the Iron Bowl against Auburn. So we'll see how that goes for the SEC. I think it's clearly Alabama and Georgia, but we'll see what the top four. So I might be wrong, but just given the track history, the track record, I think I would see Alabama probably being top 4 before you see Cincinnati as a top 4 team. Just my gut, could be, like I said, could be wrong, but we'll see. Prime, I think on Tuesday will be Georgia, Ohio State, Michigan State, Oklahoma, Alabama, Cincinnati. Those are certainly the top 6. Absolutely, those will be the top 6 teams. I think just depend. Well, Georgia's going to be number 1. I have a hard time seeing Ohio State get to number 2 with the 2 losses. I mean, with the loss. It's hard to rationalize ranking Ohio State over 3 undefeated teams. So that's I wouldn't be surprised to see them in the top 4. But I think the way I would look at it as I think we'll see Georgia 1. I honestly do think we'll see Oklahoma number 2. I would see probably Alabama 3, Michigan State 4. That's just my view of how they'll look for. Ohio State will beat Michigan. Yeah, Michigan kind of self-destructed a little bit down the stretch today, so I would be surprised about that. As much as I'd love to see that happen, Megan, Oklahoma will not be number 1. I think there's a better chance of Oklahoma being 2 or 3 than they were. And Georgia is clearly the best team in the country. I think right now it's not even really close. And certainly there's some things that could happen. Stetson Bennett's a little bit shaky as QB1 in Georgia. I don't know if JT Barrett's ever going to get back from that labrum pull, but yeah, I think Georgia's clearly the number 1. Probably the toughest game that they have left. They won in dominating fashion today, 34-7 over Florida, and really Florida, was never really competitive, honestly. So I think that'll be interesting to see what that looks like. Georgia hosts Missouri. They go to Tennessee, host Charleston Southern, and go to Georgia Tech for the old-fashioned hate game. So, I think you look at that and see Alabama and Georgia on the collision course, and Georgia's got the best defense in the country, and I think it'll be interesting to see those two battle it out in the SEC championship game. If it gets to that point, you never know. There's Alabama has a chance a much better chance to lose should to lose than Georgia does for sure.